All right, so we have a different group than we did last time, which at last time it wasn't a group, it was Christine. So we didn't record, I think we just recorded the writing sessions maybe. But here we are, it's already module 8. I can't believe it. And that means that, for those of us who celebrate these holidays, we should probably have already been Christmas shopping. But never mind, this is how it is every year for me. It comes every year. I'm just as surprised by how fast it is every year. I'm excited for y'all because you have a break between this class and the startup of the next one.
Yeah.
We have, an additional 3 days of work where your module 10 finishes, and by Wednesday we have to have your grades in. And this class has 2 assignments in module 10. 2.
Yeah,
one of them. Go ahead.
I'll say W work.
Yeah, and there's a discussion board. So like I'm grading final projects, responding to discussion boards, and then I have, the 2 things to grade before the Wednesday. So it's a bit of a crunch, but then I get from that Wednesday all the way through, I get like 10 days off. So I'm very excited. But you see it as 2 full weeks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't ever feel like I really have time off between classes because, grades are due and we start the following Monday. So that's fine. That's what they pay me for. So this week I had it up, and I better pull it back up so I talk accurately with you. We are module 8. Why is there a module 6 open on my computer? And we're talking about mise en scène, right? Which is the setting of your work, and it's the overall setting. And something that I hadn't been thinking of that much until I worked in this class was really well beyond, is there a tree in the background? And, what is the cultural time period you're setting it in? Is it a fantastical world? What kind of mood is informing your entire piece? It's really something that, it's almost like, what is your piece about and how do you portray that through so many different things? I'm working on a chapter of my memoir right now where I'm like 4 or 5 years old, and my entire life I've had, I call them song bombs. What's the other word people use? Earworms. I have real problems with earworms. I know. It's a military thing, I think, to call them, because I teased somebody in Naples, actually, at a Navy base. I'm pointing at Randy because he's a naval guy. But I had this song bomb going on that was Four Non-Blondes, that song, What's Going On? And I just gotten rid of it, and he walked in and he goes, "Hey guys, what's going on?" And there it went. So I've been trying to add mise en scène to my nonfiction chapter using fictional techniques by talking about the fact that, bad Leroy Brown was stuck in my head and wouldn't go away, which is true. It really is true. But I hadn't thought about the way that I could develop the overall scene to give everybody cultural context so that either they recognize the song that existed before they were born, or maybe some people will say, "Hey, I was 5 when I was stuck on that song," so making connections with my readers. Do you all have any questions about mise en scène?
I don't.
I don't think so. As I was going over the module, it really is, it's really interesting because there's a certain smell that I smell, and it literally reminds me of my dad. And so I'm like, wow, I just don't think about it, until this module. I'm like, wow, you can really use that, in your writing, because I've experienced that. I'm like, wow, this smell reminds me of my daddy.
Yeah.
And it's just, I didn't think to use something like that in my writing, but it's neat.
Yeah, I feel like it gives us more context to work with, and things that are really interesting. I'm like, one of my secret pleasures, it's not secret, is that I like the Outlander series because the story is pretty fun by Diana Gabaldon. So I'm about halfway through. I'm listening on audiobook, about halfway through the new book, which came out a week ago today. I would normally have it finished by now, but Thanksgiving, why would they release her book at Thanksgiving? I hate them. Anyway, if you pay attention to the way she writes, she's constantly doing that. She'll bring in a smell that reminds her characters of something, or that would cause something to happen with her readers. or they're always doing some kind of action, and that action can have layered meaning. There was one today where a character named Roger was doing something. And I realized, I was like, oh, she's playing with the fact that, he's a gun running Methodist preacher. So I didn't give anything away, I promise, if you haven't gotten there yet.
I got a long way to go.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
I'll forget about it by that time.
Yeah. Well, and it doesn't, believe me, I just did not give anything away. So anyway, so I really want to highly recommend that you do this kind of work for yourself, where you're trying to bring in additional, especially, so we were just working in dialogue modules ago. And in dialogue, one of the great ways to avoid using heavy dialogue tags, he said, she said, is to have a kind of action happen in between, or your character noticing something like a smell. And these are great opportunities to flesh out and enrich your setting, that bigger mise en scène setting, without boring your reader with he said, she said, right? And then, of course, I still have to stop myself from using fancier, dialogue tags. They're right. If you read the good books, those dialogue tags are he said, she said, or actions, things that do setting. They're rarely anything flamboyant, but I just want to. I feel like I could say so much more with them. But simplicity is best when it comes to dialogue tags. So in this class, the biggest thing I think we're learning is revision. Do you have any questions about revision, or like ways that, you can motivate yourself or, that I recommend for motivating yourself for revisions? Because we have one more. After I turn back this module 7, you will revise the same piece of work again for module 9.
I do have a question. I'm going to be honest. I almost found myself getting bored with my story. I was very, very excited. Is this something I should expect? I'm still excited about it, but I was like, goodness, I'm sick of reading about her. But I'm the one who, is that normal? Kind of, maybe.
I hope so, because no, because I find myself sometimes having absolute apathy while I'm working on revision. And that just usually for me is an indicator that I've been sitting at my computer too long and that I have to give myself a breather. And I'm working in nonfiction right now for myself, but when I was working on my novel, I would have to turn to maybe a little exercise and learn something else about my characters. So these stories I know are super short, but for example, these writing prompts we're going to do this evening, some of them might re-inspire you about your character, and maybe it'll just change one verb because something new about, in your case, her. Maybe you will change part of a whole scene because you've discovered something new about that person. But yeah, you just have to keep, it's kind of like a long-term relationship. You have to do things to stay fresh with it, because it does. And you just feel like you're like, no, I've already said it. And then that's a great time to also return to the basics of what we're working on here and ask yourself, how's my narrative arc looking? What is my narrative voice like? And am I true to it? And then just ask yourself to go back through the mechanics of it. And sometimes you can lose yourself. And this is something I think Randy could really speak to because he spent so much time in poetry. You have to sort of be able to lose yourself in the pleasure of perfecting things like the syntax and the diction and having the right rhythm happening, even in prose sentences. It's really important. If you, this weekend, I'm attending Janet Fitch's dialogue workshop, which is through the community of writers in California, and it's a whole Zoom thing. But I attended her Art of the Sentence workshop a while back, and it was just incredible. And I knew everything she was saying, but just a reminder that, check your sentences out and make sure they're different lengths. Look at the way they begin. Are you always beginning subject, object, verb? That can be a boring construction, right? And so if you're getting bored, there's just a chance that you just haven't told it in your best sense. And that's happening all the time with my memoir. But when I can refresh myself and then go back to it with a new enthusiasm, I always find something to fix on it. Does that help?
I appreciate that. Yeah, it helps a whole lot. It really does.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Utter apathy. That's the other day.
Yeah.
I literally had to get up and I just went out and like threw some hay to my horse and, you know, walked
Yeah.
my dog because she's injured. I have to have her on a leash right now. I took her for a little walk. I was like, I have got to sort this out. And honestly, when you're feeling it that strongly, here comes Heather. When you're feeling it that strongly, getting up and moving is to me the best solution, even if it's for a little while. Just doing something where you're not staring at your screen anymore.
Yeah, I think that's part of it too. You're staring at the screen environment. I realize how big that is.
Hi,
So thank
Heather.
you.
You're welcome.
Hi.
We were just talking about boredom and how we
Oh.
can get bored with our works if we're not, well, I mean, I always hit a point where I'm in complete apathy, and I was talking about some techniques to help shake myself up out of them. Heather, have you met Angel before? I think you met Randy last time, right?
No.
Oh,
I've only been to one of your things. This is the second one.
Hey,
just-
Heather.
I was
Nice to
gonna
meet
say,
you.
I realized I just jumped right in and y'all don't know each other. So let's back up. Do you mind? We're recording. Is that okay, Heather? Are
Yeah,
you
that's
comfortable?
fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you mind introducing yourselves a little bit so that we can know each other, but when we read work back?
Sure.
Okay. Anybody go.
Okay. I'm Heather. I don't remember what we said last time about ourselves. I don't know.
Maybe
I'm
just talk
halfway-
about what you're writing, where you come from, anything
Okay.
else.
I'm originally from Wichita, Kansas, and I'm working on stuff for this class. And then I actually took one of the ideas that I put in for this class, and I'm actually going to write it. I'm in the process of writing it into a novel. And what else did you say? You said something. I don't know.
Where do you live now?
I know what I was going to say. I live now in Florida. I live in Navarre, Florida, which is in the Panhandle area, the little area to the left. And then I was going to say I'm halfway through the master's program. So
Hooray. And you have a cute dog whose back end I saw last time.
yes, the white one, I think.
Let's see. Well, going in that order, Angel, you would be next. Is that okay?
That's good. I'm Angel. Nice to see you all. I just forgot what else we was. Oh, I'm from Dermot, Arkansas. Born and raised there, but I live in Prosper, Texas. I've been here for about 10 years. About 35 miles north of Dallas. My wife and mother and I just recently got a puppy that was born on my birthday.
Oh.
So I'm excited about that. His name is Winslow. So that kind of inspired my story. But and I got about a few more classes left for my MA in creative writing English. And I think that's it. I'm just excited. Oh, I'm been working on a memoir for all my life. And so hopefully, I've learned a lot and hopefully I can go ahead and finish it. And that's it.
Great.
Nice to meet y'all.
You too.
Hey, my name is Randy Bridgman. I was born in California, but raised in Washington State. Yeah, yeah, both sides of the Cascades. I live in Maryland now. I retired here from the Navy and then went to work as a so I was a jet mech in the Navy, and then I went to work as a software project lead out here, which is like two completely different things, right? So, yeah, so I live in a little town called Lexington Park, Maryland, which is way down in the southern tip of Maryland, right on the water, the Chesapeake Bay. And yeah, so I think I have one more semester and then my thesis, and I'm done with my master's. So yeah, I really enjoyed this class. It's one of my favorite. And that's it.
That makes me happy because it's one of my favorites to teach. This one and English 510, Reading Like a Writer. I
Yeah.
really like
I
that.
love it. I
And
think it's you, Dr. Max.
yeah, it's me. No, I'm just kidding. No, I love it. I mean, I firmly believe in reading like a writer. I've learned so much just by paying closer attention to what I'm reading, definitely. I'm living in Washington State now, which is why I gave the what with Randy. I grew up in this state and just came back. My sister is unfortunately terminally ill with metastatic breast cancer and was a big motivator for me to come back and be closer to her. So that's great. And I mean, great that I'm closer to her, not great that she's sick. And what else? Oh, and I'm working on a memoir too, and have learned so much in this book development program with Queen's University of Charlotte already, working with Andrea Walker from Random House as a mentor. I feel like, I don't know, in another year or two, it might be ready to put query letter 2 and actually send and see how many people will reject it. I have all my friends in Bennington are doing this, so I have no delusions about how long this process will take, but I'll keep trying, which is, part of what we do, part of what's so fun. So Heather, we talked about mise en scène a little bit. Do you have any questions about it? That gross, like GRO1S, like bigger overall sense of setting in what you're working on, like mood and, cultural context and that kind of stuff. Any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you had your chance because you're here. Okay, so what I wanted to do then is we will do our writing prompts, and today's are pretty fun, I think. They're a little more complex, and a lot of times people have been able to come to all of these, and it makes sense. So, but trust me, this is going to work. I've been reading a bunch of books that have quantum mechanics in them recently, and what I mean when I'm using quantum mechanics may not be exactly correct. So let me explain myself. But I love the idea that there could be an infinite number of universes out there, basically, or parallel lifelines or whatever, where there's an infinite number of possibilities of how my life could be going, everything to, from I'm trying to think of something just completely opposite from me. I'm like a fashion aficionado, in New York City, living the high life and living in a city and whatever. That would never happen. I live under a bridge somewhere. The whole extremes that my life could happen. Just the idea that in these parallel worlds, my life is still going on. I'm not dead. Because that's important to the writing prompt. But there's, it's the Schrodinger's cat theory where, there's the sense that there is a cat inside. If you don't know the theory, I shouldn't talk about this, but basically, like, you're trying to figure out that there's this cat inside a box and prove that it is or isn't there at any given time. And you don't know because it's inside a box, but it is there or it's not. And so anyway, the whole point, and if you want a great explanation of it, of all things, I'm going to forget her name, Jodi Picoult. Jodi Picoult has a book called Two Paths. And I read it just because it was another quantum mechanics book. And she actually explains the Schrodinger's cat idea really wonderfully, which I'm surprised by. Anyway, so our prompt for today is going to dig into that, if I can find where I put the prompts. Here we go. A little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and pop this into the chat so that you can read it while I'm talking about it to you. We're going to do 2 writing prompts. I gotta find you again. Thank you. Here you are. And in these, part 1 is going to be, let's see, here we go. So in the chat, if you can see, we're going to think about quantum mechanics and the many worlds theory. And either you, if you want to do something for your autobiographical work, or a character in one of your fictions, are experiencing the infinite number of possible lives in some other realm that's happening right now. So I want to ask you to, when I start the timer and get you writing, to imaginatively approach a door through which is one of these quantum lives. And you, of course, have the infinite possibilities. I don't actually want to be the New York Times bestselling author. I think that'd be kind of scary to be famous, but Maybe you just want an Iron Man race. You live in a box. You live on a different planet. I mean, there's really, no end to the possibilities of what could be happening. So I want to take either yourself or your character and have you walk up to that door, open it, step through, and place that character into the new world. Some easy ways to do that is either to have your character describing what they see, or characters, or we are as characters in our own writing, are the most interesting when they are actually engaging with other people. So maybe have them speak to somebody on the other side and do it with dialogue, or have somebody on the other side seeing them and observing what's different. So like what's being implied in this writing prompt is how the character or you exist now, and what would be different if they stepped into an entirely different life. Does this make sense? Do you have a sense of what you might write about? Okay, so what I'm going to do is give us 6 minutes on the clock for writing. And I will have you start on your marks. Get set, write. You have about a minute left. Okay, try to wrap things up. So Heather had some success. I'm just laughing because Angel and Randy are writing like crazy still, but
Well, I was just going to show you. I picked the wrong writing utensil because I can barely read that.
I can see where you could barely read that. I can barely read that.
It's supposed to be. Is it number 2? Oh, probably because of the millimeter of pencil lead. I do art stuff, and so I guess I'm just spoiled. I have a hard time writing with pencils that are subpar because I don't want to push down real hard on the paper.
Right.
And so
Right.
I'm like, like this is a number 2 HB, whatever. It's a Taikong
Oh,
Dorita.
oh,
A
so much
snob.
work. Yeah, no,
So-
you'd wear out your callus on your
Yeah.
finger.
Yeah.
I'm very picky about writing utensils. I have a favorite fountain pen I like to write with, and I couldn't find it this morning. It was quite a tragedy. And my backup fountain pen wouldn't flow. It's just sitting here all dry. The other one, I use these cheap Pilot ones. I mean, cheap by fountain pen standards, but it's purple and it's cool, and I have no idea where it is. Okay, so I'm actually going to have to call Stopsies on Angel and Randy. And it's okay. Nobody expects you to be able to finish anything entirely complete in 6 minutes, but it gives you a chance to go back to something if you want to. And it's really exciting that a writing prompt can get you that fired up that you still have something to say several minutes. So yeah, keep that in mind that of course, this is everybody's first draft, and I love hearing the ideas that you all come up with. So is anybody willing to read what you came up with, or do you want to talk about your experience first? Or
I can if you guys, because you guys kept writing, and I figure what I tried to do when I stopped is I tried to get to a finality of a sentence where it was like I'm kind of ending on something, but it was an idea of something that was happening, but I wanted to make sure I ended it with what the explanation, whatever I'm trying to say. However I'm trying to say it, but I could have kept going, but that's okay. So I guess I'll read first.
yes, great.
What I have. Okay, so I didn't when you started talking about realms and things, one of the 3 ideas for one of my writings had something to do with some realms in it, and so I kind of drew off of what I've been writing about with that story, and kind of went into that with this idea that you have of the quantum mechanics. So and I apologize. I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but my pencil is not very dark, so I might stumble over myself a little bit because I can't really read what it says. Okay. As I walked through the passageway to the deload realm, I was instantly flooded with memories from this life that I have lived everywhere, every time I come here. As they came tumbling back into my mind, my name was being called out from somewhere to my right. I turned and looked through the purple branches and blue flowers in the promenade to see one of my love's servant walking towards me. He was smiling so widely at me as he spoke. Asteria, you came in time for the Lark Fest Festival. We are just getting ready to put the columns of granite and steel up and hang the orange and yellow garland of petals. I looked around and realized the promenade was full of life. People rushing around the trees and moving large rotunds out of the way to make room for the platform and other items that would make up the stage. I saw a large throne off to the side, and many of the children were climbing around it as if they were royalty.
Cool.
That's what I got.
It's great.
Thanks.
That's how I clap when I'm muted. I was writing down what kind of struck me, and I accidentally hit return, so it's in the chat. I mean, I was going to do it anyway, but I was going to wait till you're finished, not in the middle of you reading. What stood out for you, Randy or Angel? Like, what intrigues you about what's happening in this scene?
I thought this. Oh, go ahead,
go-
Angel.
No, I was just imagining what she was saying. And she really did good with the sensory details. I felt like I was there. And I wanted more, I wanted to hear more, but it was good.
Randy?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting about the throne. I was listening to it and little children and the throne, and I was thinking, well, where did she go? Did she go to heaven, or did she go back in time and they're just waiting for the king to come out, or the queen, or it was pretty. I thought it was pretty cool. Yeah, it just kind of took me all over the place in my thoughts.
So that's funny that you mentioned that, because I'm like, I wanted to put something in there, right? I'm like, at the end, I was like, okay, something over to the side. I wanted to see like a chair or whatever. So I just like threw it out there. I was like, throne. So I just wrote it on there. And sometimes I do that. I'm like, I got to come up with something. What can I put in there? And I might go, but since it's intriguing, because this whole thing is intriguing, I might go back and change it to something else. Like I said, I might say like chair, and then be like, that doesn't sound right, and I can change it. But yeah, I just put throne in there, and then, kind of go from there. I don't know. Always think like, if I'm standing there, like, because that's kind of how I write when I visualize it. I say like, if I'm standing there, that's how I try to do it. But I was thinking, like, okay, so in my mind, I think what you thought too, like throne, and there's like something that's going to happen. But then I would probably go further too, even, and explain like kind of what the throne looked like or something. Maybe give you a little better idea of what it is exactly this might have to do with. That's just kind of where I go with things, though. It could go either way.
Yeah.
But thanks, guys. I appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, so if it's in the beginning of something like this, the clues I was heading into obviously are the ones I wrote here, which is life I've lived every time I come here. And I'm like, oh, there's so many possibilities for that. Is that like one of those time loop things where she shows back up and it's the same life? And then when the guy comes up and talks to her, it's like, no, because she doesn't, it's not like, oh, he says the same thing he says every time. So she's not doing that with it, right? But I mean, I felt like with purple branches and blue flowers, and I felt as if we were given a lot of clues to know that this isn't an ordinary earthly realm, but this is something that regularly happens to her. And it could be that play with the word life where, like when she comes back to, say, court, because there's a throne, she lives a certain type of life, so instead of maybe being a time loop, it could just be like a cultural moment or something like that. I don't know. I was intrigued. Definitely.
Cool.
Who wants to go after that?
Phew.
I don't like mine.
That's okay.
I think I was kind of headed in the wrong direction.
I
I
usually don't
am
let
headed.
usually don't let people like disparage their work. We just ask you to read because sometimes we'll like it a lot better than you do.
I'll read it though, but I think I was kind of headed in the wrong direction.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay. Oh wow, cows, really? I'm not used to this. How in the world did I end up here? And why is it so quiet? Excuse me, sir. Where's the city bus? City bus? Ma'am, there's no city bus on a farm to market road. Looks like you're going to have to foot it. Foot it? But sir, I'm wearing heels. Ugh. Ma'am, you're not wearing heels. Have you looked at your feet lately? I look down and I'm standing here wearing a pair of cowboy boots. You've got to be kidding me, I thought, as I bent down to dust the dry mud off. Ma'am, are you okay? No, sir, I'm not. I have to leave here. Okay, and the rest is scribble scrabble because I was trying to get my thoughts together. But that's the only thing that kind of makes sense. Now, where I'm headed, I'm not quite sure. I got to work on that.
Okay, so I want to hear from Heather and Randy first.
I think it's pretty interesting. It's like she woke up in a different place, you know, but at the same time when she was in the city or whatever, you know, with her high heels on, she woke up on a farm. and and it was a completely different life than she was used to, you know. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I love writing which that picks you up in one place and puts you down in another. And I thought that that did that, you know. So I thought it was pretty neat.
Thank you.
So
Go
at
ahead. I'm
first,
sorry.
okay, so I listened to where you were going. So like immediately where you started, I was like, okay, she's somewhere, but you have an opportunity after that to give the backstory once she discovers what's happening. So you were actually, like you said, you didn't think you were headed in the right direction. I think you were headed in the right direction. You just started it differently, which is wonderful because like you took her like surprise and you gave it to us too, because you know we're listening to what she's saying, and as she's learning these things, we're learning them too. So it's, you know, it's like, okay, well, where is she, you know? And so there's so many questions behind everything as you kept reading the dialogue, and I was like, what about? And I'm like, cowboy boots, and I was just like, oh, and then this, and I'm like, so what happened? So now, yeah, I'm sure, like, you know, Max and Randy, I'm like, okay, so what happened? How did she get here? What did this, like, I am intrigued. Yes, I want to know what happens.
Yeah, so definitely that I'm wearing heels is where you got me because she's like, I can't foot it, you know, I'm in heels. And so, yeah, I'm with Heather in that. I think what you have going on here is that she needs to get somewhere. She's looking for a bus. And so her life has been derailed, you know, mid-step. She's on her way to a city bus and she's standing in a farm to market road with no way to get to town except for walking. And then it turns out if she looks down, she's not even wearing what she was wearing. So what's going to happen to her life? I mean, she's not the same person at all on the outside, but she herself didn't live the life she stepped into. So I'm super excited to find out where that's going to go.
I'm
And
glad y'all felt some type of way about it. So thank you. That's good feedback.
absolutely. And as a both wearer, cowboy boots hurt just as much as heels. So of course she didn't notice the difference. They were the narrow kind, you know, with the pointy toes. Same deal. That's great. Thank you, Angel. Okay, so Randy.
Okay. So life is safe. Marriage, children, never questioning authority, God. And then I wake up on a bus just outside of Juarez, Mexico, and sitting between two Mexicans with beer bellies with silver belt buckles that say, remember the Alamo, which I think is probably something different down here means something different down here is Jesus. And I say, where you been? And he says, my father called me home back to corporate to help with a hostile takeover. And I say, yeah, I'm waiting for the Garden of Eden too to open under new management. And he says, yeah, free will, that free will thing did a lot of damage. And I stopped.
You're such a poet.
Yes.
Okay, so Angel and Heather?
Well, at first, when he first started, I was like, okay, well, maybe going back in time, since that belt buckle. Well, we have, the same, remember that Alamo anyway, but I thought maybe it was closer to that time. And then as he got a little further, it's like, wow, it's even deeper than that, than just remember the Alamo. So I'm like, are they in purgatory? I don't know. It's like, are they in purgatory or, have they passed? It left a lot of questions, but it's really, really interesting. I want to hear a lot more. But yeah, very, very interesting.
Yeah, being left with questions isn't a bad thing always, right?
No, it's not. I agree with that, Angel. Yeah, I agree with that too. That it's like, okay, are they in between, the purgatory, like you say? And then I also think too, sometimes, because I cannot remember what the story was I read, but it was like, I don't want to say it was like a kind of a Tuesdays with Maury's situation where, it's kind of like, it feels like it's in his head, but not really. But I thought maybe it could also be, he's in a passageway, or maybe this is him in his everyday life, but all of a sudden this just shows up here, or like she said, you could have, maybe you woke up or whatever, and you're in this bus with these people or something, and, this is happening. But I did want to say that I really like your style of writing, the words that there's so much there. It's very rich. And even though it seems like sometimes, you give a little bit of description of things or whatever, it makes it seems so much more though, like the silver belt buckle. Automatically, I was like, boom, but how big is this belt buckle you're talking about?
Dinner
Is
plate.
it a tiny one, or is it this giant one that he's got on? So I think that was excellent. It was very good.
Yeah.
I like it.
Thank you.
That's exactly what I meant by such a poet, so in these morning meditation sessions I do, it's mostly poet people. And yeah, they have these same, just with a little detail, they'll have all this weight of meaning behind it, including belt buckles are sort of everything, in a Western society. Yeah, I have 4 or 5 in my closet that I won when I rode horses when I was a kid, and I haven't even gotten rid of them. What's wrong with me? So yeah, I forgot to do this. So I love that, because we know sort of the you person, I made assumptions. I don't know that we did, but I made assumptions that you were in Maryland and suddenly you're outside of Juarez, Mexico. And then I thought maybe there's a chance you were playing with the Jesus name. That's a Hispanic name. And so is Jesus sitting next to you? But he would have, of course, introduced himself as Jesus. But the point being that you're really having a great time, playing with the idea that somebody named after Jesus can be aware of like the cultural weight of his name. And so, yes, I mean, there's all kinds of play going on there, but do you have the real guy there? Like there's a corporate takeover. Look at what free will has done to us, and you're asking questions about huge ideas in just a minimal number of lines. And that's what poets do. It's pretty fun.
Thanks.
Keep doing what you do. I enjoy it. Well, awesome. So do you guys want to do the other half to this writing prompt?
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that it's meaningful to you. Let me see if I did one of these it worked. Great. So I have it in the chat. And what I want to have happen is that now that your person has been in this quantum life, I want them literally to turn around and walk back through the door. And you or the character is arriving in the current life, the story that you plucked them out of to put them in the last setting, take them and the experiences that they had by visiting a quantum realm that was similar to theirs, and let them step back and observe their own lives and what's different about it for them now. Like what happens when she is standing in high heels, but she's just been, say, mucking out cow pastures or something, for Angel. How is the perspective of their regular life changed from having taken a quantum leap somewhere else? And if it's not very fun or playful with your person, just like take somebody else through a quantum door. I mean, just do whatever it takes to be writing during this time. But if it works for your character, find out what a new and fresh perspective will do when you turn that person around and take them back through the door into the life you had them depart. Okay? On your marks, get set, write. You have about a minute left. Okay, go ahead and start wrapping things up. Time is up. All right, we're seeing good movement in the right direction. We're all drinking water, staying hydrated. It's great. How did it go this time?
It's a little tougher this time, I think.
Did Angel and Heather, did you have the same experience?
I think I started off okay. It was a different experience. The first time, I think, was a little bit tougher for me. Kind of had something to go on this time. So
What about you,
it's a little
Heather?
bit.
I started something and then I'm like, that doesn't make sense. So I crossed it out and then started again. I kept going.
Because one of the
That
questions
happens.
I always have, I'm sorry,
That's okay.
were you still going?
No, I'm done. I just said
Okay.
that usually happens a lot.
Ah, I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize.
No, it's okay.
Well, one of the questions I end up having with this one is there's such a difference between having infinite possibilities and then coming back to this one life that they stepped out of. And I don't know what it does to close down the perspective, or does it open it up because you're seeing it in new eyes? So I guess we'll find out, won't we? Who'd like to go first this time? Randy is the only person unmuted. Are you interested in going first?
Yeah, I'll go first. Okay. Let's see. Questioning God. The pastor reads some scriptures during men's work day at the church. He says the Muslims are like weeds growing in the parking lot cracks. You pull them up and they come right back. He says the prayer for our troops to kill as many as needed. And then we go out to repair the church.
That's a poem. So I wrote down Muslims.
I was just I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I wrote down that his comment, Muslims are like weeds in the parking lot cracks. And I'm like, how horrifying, which is what your intention is. Because then the men step out and then repair the cracks in the church. And the whole point, or repair the church. And the whole point, as I see what you've written, or as I heard it, is the hypocrisy between suggesting that a men's day can repair things and then suggesting that a whole religion needs repairing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was the difference between not, growing up, not questioning God, and then going into a parallel place where you get a question, you get a chance to question God, and then you come back to your normal place where you don't question him, and those thoughts kind of follow you into this place where you never questioned before, but here you are at a men's work day at church, and and you're listening to this.
Yeah.
So it makes you question.
Yeah, and that would be a really interesting thing to flesh out the actual dichotomy, like in one piece that had both things happening, so it was clear sort of how horrifying that juxtaposition is.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about Angel and Heather? What are your thoughts on Randy's work?
Oh, I thought it was pretty deep. And I do like the part about where he says repair the church. You repair something when it's broken. And I was thinking, repair spiritually or physically. You can go both directions with that. And I thought it was pretty neat how he did that too. I liked it. It was good. I want to hear some more.
Heather?
I always tell my husband, because he's in the military, I always tell him that I wish he would write stuff down, because I always kind of wonder what his perspective for things would be. And I don't want to say I hit on the fact that you mentioned that about troops and killing as many as possible, but I was trying, I can't keep coming back to that, because I'm trying to fit in, and maybe you just added that in there, but I'm trying to fit that into it. And I guess I'm overthinking that portion of it, but I'm trying to put it together in a big picture. Does that make sense, Randy? So I'm trying to follow along. Like I'm following along, and then you put that in there, and I was like, wait a minute. And then you go with the rest of it, and I'm still back there like, so I'm just trying to figure out where it fits in, and then does that make sense?
Well, yeah. So there was one I couldn't remember this name until just now when you were talking, but there was one line that I wanted to put in there. Is we all know the raw deal that Ishmael got. I wanted to stick that in there because it kind of add to it, but I couldn't remember Ishmael's name just until you started talking, and then I remembered it.
Oh,
I have a gap. I have a gap in the thing there where I left it out.
Do you mean Ishmael from Moby Dick, or do you mean Abraham?
Ishmael, Abraham's son.
Yeah.
Who he sent into the desert, and who is actually, I guess, the father of the Islam folks, those folks.
So see, I was right for trying to follow that path, because I thought for a second, maybe you're saying troops like you mean military, but I wasn't quite sure. So I thought, okay, wait, there's
no, I meant military. I meant military.
But you had the okay. And but then as a whole, sorry, I don't want to go back. As a whole, I like it because it's like what you both said, Max and Angel, about it being in repair of something that is broken, but is it really broken? Or it's kind of questioning, is it not? But he's got this idea that this is inevitably broken because of
it's kind of broken if you say that God is love, and you're saying we should kill people,
as many people as possible.
Yeah. Okay,
Yep.
so I'm following your thinking correctly. Then I don't want to because I know a lot of times it's difficult when you write about beliefs and religion and things, or you add it into something that you're writing. and you don't want to offend. I don't want to offend you by inferring something incorrectly. So I just want to say that. I should have prefaced it with that, but I followed your line of thinking, and I really like your piece that you wrote just now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I like that you took a risk too. That's nice. I mean, because a lot of times we aren't talking much about big ideas that are politically sensitive now. And so thank you for taking a risk with us.
Thank you.
Trust us, which is great. Okay, so should we just reverse? No, that would make Angel be in the middle of both times. Heather, are you interested in going next?
Sure, I'll go next.
And who's in your lap? We have to know.
Oh, this is Happy.
Hi,
You have to
Happy.
see his face though. He's got caramel colored eyes and this really light brown nose. when he's laying asleep on the couch and the way he does, he looks like a stuffed animal. It's kind of funny.
And it's not the dog I saw. I saw the other one last time, the black and white.
Oh, you saw that this guy is younger. He's only 3. But the other one, his name is Jack. He's older. He's 14.
Oh,
So
wow.
He's my old guy. Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Let me put him down. I think he doesn't really want up here. He pretended like he did, but he doesn't. Okay. If I could read my own writing. Okay. I felt the cold before I could even feel the chill of the air. It was that tepid gray that the sky turns when it's just cold enough to snow. I couldn't fathom I had been gone longer than a year, but as I walked down Main Street, I looked into the window of a restaurant that usually has newspapers scattered at the table of a corner booth to squint out the date. Was that correct? Never mind the headline that read something about new habitation in an alternate realm. The date said January 16th, 3020, which meant I had been gone for 20 years to the day. I was starting to see things as they really were. The restaurant was still open and operational, but was worse for wear. Some of my favorite stores on Main Street were boarded up and vacant.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about I was like, I can't put 20 something. I was like, I'll just go out of left field and put 3020. Like, I don't know. I just came up with that number. Whatever.
I like that your opening line was telling us, like, you set the mood for us with just a couple of words, those tepid gray clouds. I'm like, this is not going to be positive. And it wasn't, mise en scène right there. Well done. Module complete. What about you two, Randy and Angel?
She definitely set the mood early on. It was cold. I can, every time she reads, Heather, every time you read, I can just literally picture it. I pictured up boarded up stores. I was even wondering what was her favorite stores. I really get involved in it, and just wanted to know what happened, what's going to happen. So I think she did really, really good as far as painting a picture for me to make me want to keep going and see what's going to happen. I like that. And I was going to ask about the number, but you already let us know that it wasn't very significant. I figured it probably was, but it was good.
I thought it was just in 2 words, Main Street, cued me into, hey, this is probably a small town that she's returning to, just those 2 words kind of, in my mind, took me to small town and walking up Main Street and looking in the windows and returning there after 20 years. It made me think about going home after 20 years, to a small town and finding clues that you could have been away for 20 years, or I don't know if you was asleep, or I don't know where you went, right? So I'd like to know where did you go, right, for 20 years, and I don't know. I just thought it was pretty cool. But those two words right there, and I thought it was really interesting the way that she started it off explaining, the natural, like the weather, and you could tell that it was, hey, hey, this is winter, and so there was just a lot of things in there that just didn't say straight out what it was, but it told you just in a couple words what it was. I thought it was pretty neat. I really liked it. I really
Yeah, and
did.
that actually excellent clue, right, in the headline about the new habitation in an alternate realm gives us
Yeah,
a hint
yeah.
that maybe where she was. And I will back up what Angel was saying. You're a very good reader. You have a very you have a good voice, and then you have a rhythm of reading that gets us really involved.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
If only I could just read everything that I write out, and then people would understand me better. It's the whole thing with, be careful when you write an email about what you say in the email, because you don't sound the same. And I'm like, I know, because when I read to what I put, it's not sound the same when someone else is like, what did you say? And I'm like, that's not what I meant. But yeah, just wanted to say that.
My first creative writing teacher, they said that he couldn't ever read his work out loud because he gave it, his voice had so much timbre in it that everything sounded important.
And I was going to say, as you were talking, Randy, I'm sorry, like the expressive situation that was going on. My youngest daughter walked in and didn't realize I was on this. And so obviously you guys couldn't hear her, but she was saying some things when she came into the dog. And then I was like, stop. And she was going to come into view. And then she kind of creeped back out, and then she just started laughing and giggled and ran off. So sorry. So I couldn't not laugh. I was like, okay, that was kind of funny. So I apologize, but I was listening to what you said.
Well, that's all right. I'm used to that.
Right, Randy, you told me you just had your second great grandchild born.
Yeah. Just yesterday, and we're going over the Eastern Shore this weekend to meet her. We couldn't be in we couldn't be in the hospital because of COVID. So only the dad and the mother could be in there. So we just decided that we would wait until she was born and then go over on the weekend and see her.
But he's clearly had his experience with giggling small people.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I love that so many kids are getting to see their parents like going to graduate school, and what an example you're setting. And Winslow, you never know what he's going to be up to, Angel. I mean, my poor healers are smart enough; they might try to go to grad school.
So true.
All right, Angel, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Go ahead.
I have some bad handwriting. Okay, what an experience. I never knew peace until I sat on that farm to Market Street. I never knew peace until I heard quietness. I heard the air, the sunshine, the colorful trees wave goodbye to me as I left to head home. I'm back. It's noisy, and the city bus is filled with screams, yells, babies crying, husband and wives arguing, sticky seats, and just an awful smell. Yet this is what I call home. It's too loud to appreciate the quietness. It's too busy to take time and enjoy what life really has to offer. Yet this is what I call home. I'm tossing the heels, throwing the computer, and grabbing my cowboy boots to head out for a bit of sunshine. This is not my home. I'm done.
Oh man.
That's interesting.
Because I got one more thing to type. Sorry. This is not my twice that yet this is what I call home. And call seems to be that key word, right? Because in the end, your character says this is not my home, which is fascinating.
She regrets going home now.
And she sounds like she had a choice. The trees wave goodbye. Like it sounds like, hey, great. I'm thinking of the opposite way, but Dorothy's headed back to Kansas. Everybody's waving her off, and it sounds great until you get back. And For her, there's no place like home, but that's because it went from black and white to Technicolor. Thoughts, Randy, Heather?
Yeah, you know what I thought was interesting about that is that when she got back, she decided to throw her heels off and put on her cowboy boots. So she pulled that world with her.
Yeah.
And it was a really interesting way of showing how it influenced her. I really liked it.
Yeah, actually, I had a really similar thought, Randy, where I was like, oh, she's going to find the country and the city by, you know, taking the techniques back with her, which would be hard to do, I think.
Yeah. Yeah,
Screaming
pretty
baby
cool.
feet, sticky seats, and arguing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interruption number 2. That was my husband. They're always trying to
That's
come in
a
here and
pretty
talk to
deep
me.
voice for a little girl.
Sorry about that. Well, Lorelai came in here earlier and did the same thing. Okay, anyway, what was I going to say? I'm sorry. That was hilarious. Again. Oh, okay. So as I was listening, I was sitting in the bus also. So I was listening to all these things that are going on and thinking, okay. And then I did catch on that too, where you said, this is what I call home. And so I was like, okay, so that's like a play. I automatically caught that was a play on words. And then at the end you said, this is not my home. And so I was like, okay, so she's still, I'm like, wait, is she still in the same place, but not? Or is it, I was like, is it one of those things where she was in the same place at a different time, but she's still back, or not that she's still back. She goes back to the time that she was in, but she holds the things that she got with her and took them with her? Or do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, like was that Market Street there, you know, 50 years ago, and she has no
Yeah.
choice but to be in the city that's on top of where it was.
yeah, exactly. That, thanks. That's, yeah, that's what I was trying to say. And I liked your writing, your description of things, and kind of like you said with me, you were sitting there and you can see everything and visualize that. I had the same thing, of course. And anybody that has been around or has kids, sticky anything, we all know, you know, like kids are perpetually sticky when they're younger. It's just how it is. I don't know, but so that's a really good a good visual. And the trees, I know she put that in there too, but yeah, the trees waving goodbye. So it's kind of, you're going both ways. She's staying, leaving, coming, in the same place, not. So those are just my thoughts about it. But I liked it a lot.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure to see what you all do with your imagination. That's my favorite part about teaching. I'm just so impressed by the infinite worlds that are in your brains. You know, you went places I wasn't expecting tonight, which is really fun for me. I like that. So thank you for making my evening enjoyable too. Okay, so I could pop, actually, I have 2 similar prompts. Why don't I go ahead and pop those into the prompt, that other thing, the chat. And you could take those with you, and I'll put them in the description in the YouTube channel in case they're long. So when this goes up in YouTube, I'll put them in the description. You can just read it there if you'd like, if you know how to get to my YouTube channel, which I send the link to when I tell people it's live. So you can do that. But basically, oh, that's the wrong one. I've done this one already. Well, so bonus prompts if you haven't looked. Higher on the page, here we go. I was doing another perspectives one, and it's very similar to the quantum physics one, but we don't talk about quantum physics in this one. So apparently it didn't copy. Let me try again. Come on. This is so weird. It's just not copying. It copied the one below it. Okay, so I will put new prompts in the, but I believe, well, if Heather and Randy came to different ones, then only one of you has seen these prompts before. So these will be useful, and then I'll put the other ones I'm talking about on the YouTube channel, because I mean, Control-C should copy them, Control-V should paste them. It did it to this one, so I don't know why it's not working. Anyway, thank you for coming tonight. Do you have questions for me about the class, about what we have left? Anything I can help with? No?
I don't have any questions I can think of right now, but usually I do later on.
Well,
I
then-
just want to say I enjoyed this. This was really nice. I'm so glad I had the chance to come this time. It was fun.
I'm really glad you came too. And I want to say that this part where we read them out loud to each other, while it's probably the most nerve-wracking, it's such a cool part of being a writer, getting to share that writing with people and not having it be polished. It's a very specific experience that I think is really good for us. So thank you for being brave and for reading what you got. Okay, well then if this seems good for people, I am going to